Someone's private doctor's notes ended up at a company sales meeting.
Okay, I swear it was an accident. The printer was just sitting there.
I got a fruit basket from accounts. It were that bad.
Inspired by the kind of story you'd find on Reddit. Imagine you arrive at work one morning, sit down at your desk, open your laptop, and your inbox contains an email you absolutely, categorically did not send.
Right, and that email contains your private medical referral notes, sent to the entire company.
And nobody knows how it happened. Except me. I know exactly how it happened.
Welcome to English Through Stories. I'm Oliver, joined as always by Jake and Sophie, and today we have a tale of workplace horror, medical privacy, and one truly catastrophic misunderstanding involving a shared printer. Jake, I believe this one begins with you.
Okay, so honestly, I feel terrible about this. Like, genuinely. But also, okay, wait, you have to understand the full picture before you judge me.
There is no full picture that makes this better, Jake. There is no picture.
Let us set the scene. Sophie had, the previous week, attended a GP appointment, that is, an appointment with her general practitioner, her regular doctor. The GP had written up some referral notes, a document explaining why Sophie needed to see a specialist. Sophie, being organized, had printed a copy to keep in her bag.
A referral, right, so your GP writes this letter saying, this patient needs to see a specialist doctor for a specific thing. It's a proper medical document. It's private. It has my name on it, my date of birth, the reason I needed the referral, everything.
Which, for the record, was totally normal. She was being referred to a physiotherapist. A physio for a dodgy knee.
It doesn't matter what it was for, Jake. The point is it were private.
Now enter Jake. It is Monday morning, approximately 8:45. Jake has arrived at the office early, which, by his own admission, is suspicious in itself, and he needs to print something.
I had a sales presentation. I needed to print 12 copies of this slide deck, and I was in a rush. And I went to the office printer, and there was already a document sitting in the paper tray.
My referral notes, just sitting there, on the printer.
Which, and I want to be clear, I did not read. I just assumed it was scrap paper, like leftover prints that someone forgot. So I flipped them over and put them back in the tray as blank paper, and then I printed my 12 copies of the sales deck on top of them.
So every single person at that Monday morning meeting got a copy of Jake's presentation, and on the back of page 3 was my GP referral notes, in full.
Now, to understand the full catastrophic weight of this moment, you need to know that the Monday meeting included 12 people. The entire regional sales team, 2 visiting managers from head office, and crucially, Sophie herself.
I sat down, I took my copy from the pile, and I'm reading along like everything's normal. And then Jake's presentation has this slide about quarterly targets, and I flip the page and I see my own name. My own name, Jake, in a medical document, at a work meeting.
Okay, but in my defense, in my complete and total defense, I did not know those were your papers. I thought they were someone's old printout.
I went the color of a post box. I'm not even joking, dead red.
Sophie, with enormous composure, did not immediately scream. Instead, she quietly looked around the table to see whether anyone else had turned their handout over yet.
And most people hadn't, because Jake was still talking through the first slide. So I thought, right, okay, I've got a window here. I can collect these before anyone notices. So I stood up and I said, oh, sorry, there's a printing error on these, let me just grab them back.
Which was so smooth, honestly, I was impressed. But then
one of the visiting managers, bless him, he were trying to be helpful, he goes, oh, don't worry, I've already made a note of this on the back. What is a GP referral, by the way? Is that something to do with the project?
Oh no.
Oh yes.
A GP referral, for our listeners who may be wondering, is when your general practitioner, your regular doctor, writes an official document recommending that you see a specialist. It is, as Sophie noted earlier, entirely private medical information. It is not, under any normal circumstances, agenda item 4 at a sales meeting.
So the manager is holding it up, squinting at it, and he literally goes, patient name, Sophie, and Sophie makes this sound like.
I made a noise like a kettle that's given up on life.
And she dives across the table, actually dives, and grabs it out of his hand.
I said, that's mine, sorry, private, sorry, nout to do with the project, sorry, can we move on, sorry. Just sorry, 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 like a broken record.
Now here is where the story deepens, because whilst Sophie was collecting the handouts, 3 people had already photographed them. Not maliciously, they genuinely thought it was part of the meeting materials. One person had even emailed it to their assistant for filing.
Someone filed my medical referral in a work folder under Monday meeting resources.
I did spend the next hour sending very urgent emails asking people to please delete that attachment and explaining it was a printing error and absolutely not project-related.
He were very thorough about that, to be fair.
But the story does not end there, because later that same afternoon, Sophie received a phone call from her specialist clinic confirming her upcoming consultation. Now, a consultation is a formal appointment where you meet a specialist doctor to discuss your condition and next steps. Completely standard, except Sophie took this call at her desk.
I thought everyone had gone to lunch. The office were dead quiet. So I answered and the receptionist goes, calling to confirm your physiotherapy consultation on Thursday at 2 p.m. And I go, yes, great, thanks. And then I hear behind me the manager from head office goes, oh, is that for the knee thing?
He'd remembered, from the referral, he'd actually remembered.
He said, and I quote, my wife had a knee referral last year, took ages to get a consultation, hope yours comes through quick. And he were being genuinely kind, which made it worse, because I had to stand there and have a chat about knee physio with a senior manager from head office when 40 minutes earlier he'd been trying to read my medical notes out loud.
There is, in the English language, a word for this. It is called mortification. Sophie was mortified. Now, at this point, some of our listeners might be wondering, why were Sophie's referral notes on the office printer in the first place?
Because I had come into the office early that same morning to print them. I were going to collect the printed copy and put it in my bag because I needed it for my consultation. But then my line manager called me into an urgent meeting and I forgot. I left it on the printer.
So we were both early risers that morning and we both used the printer. It was a perfect storm. A medical referral sales presentation perfect storm.
I had my follow-up appointment booked with the physio clinic the next week, and I genuinely considered calling to reschedule just so I'd have an excuse to stay home and never come back to that office again.
A follow-up appointment, by the way, is simply the next appointment after an initial one when your doctor or specialist checks on your progress. Sophie did not reschedule. She went to her follow-up appointment, and she returned to work.
Like a hero.
Like someone who had absolutely nought left to be embarrassed about, because it had all already happened.
Now there is a postscript to this story. A few weeks later, someone else in the office, a different colleague, was complaining loudly about how difficult it was to get an appointment. Specifically, they were trying to book a sick note appointment. That is an appointment where your doctor officially documents that you are too unwell to work.
And the visiting manager, he'd come back for another meeting, pipes up and goes, oh, you should ask Sophie, she seemed very organized with her medical appointments.
I became the unofficial office expert on booking GP appointments and managing specialist referrals because of the worst morning of my professional life.
People were genuinely coming to her desk asking things like, Sophie, what's the difference between a referral and a consultation? Like she was a medical secretary.
And I know the answer. A referral is when your GP writes to recommend you see a specialist. A consultation is the actual appointment with that specialist. I know this because it is burned into my soul forever.
There was, of course, also the small matter of the prescription. One of Sophie's referral notes had mentioned that her GP had issued a prescription, that is, an official written order from a doctor for medication or treatment alongside the referral. Nothing dramatic, just some anti-inflammatory tablets for the knee.
But because that word was in the document, someone in the meeting had apparently assumed I had some serious ongoing condition, And for 3 weeks people kept asking me very gently if I was all right.
Which honestly, kind of sweet, in a chaotic, privacy-violating sort of way.
Someone brought me a fruit basket.
Wait, someone brought you a fruit basket.
A proper fruit basket, with a little bow, from Sandra in accounts. She thought I were dealing with something serious.
For clarity, Sophie's knee is now, following her physiotherapy consultation and her follow-up appointment, completely fine. She was discharged, that is, officially released from the care of the specialist after 6 sessions. She still has the fruit basket bow, kept it as a memento of the worst Monday she has ever experienced.
I also, for the record, bought her a coffee every day for 2 weeks, which I feel like should count for something.
It counts for something, not enough, but something.
The moral of this story, if there is one, is threefold. First, always collect your documents from the printer immediately. Second, check both sides of paper before reloading the tray. Third, if you must accidentally distribute a colleague's GP referral to a 12-person meeting, at least buy them coffee.
And maybe, understand what a referral is before the manager tries to read it out loud. That would have been useful information for everyone in that room.
The manager now waves at me every time he comes into the office. Every time, like we share something. We do share something. We share the memory of him almost reading my physiotherapy referral at a sales meeting. That's our bond now.
And that is where we leave today's story. A tale of printers, prescriptions, referrals, and the particular agony of becoming the office's accidental medical expert.
If that made you laugh or cringe, honestly, probably both, drop us a like. It genuinely helps the channel more than you know.
And follow us so you never miss another story like this one. Trust me, they only get more mortifying from here.
Subscribe to English Through Stories, new episodes every week, and every one of them will teach you something useful, even if that something is simply never to recycle printer paper.
See you on the next one. Drop us a like.
Hit follow and never miss a story.
Subscribe to English Through Stories. Find us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. See you on the next episode.